Welcome to Liberty Today. What's the real story on Ukraine? We'll have the inside track from Nick Reed. Sam Kephart discusses the battle between mainstream Republicans and the Tea Party, and a brand new unfair and unbalanced report from Unbalanced and Unfair, Ed and Gordon. All that and more on today's Liberty Today.
Many people in America have some kind of ties to the Ukraine. Our friend Nick Reed is one of those people. You have a long history with family from
Yes.
the Ukraine.
Yes.
And, you know, Vladimir Putin has had his finger in the pot for a long time. What's happening with the invasion of Ukraine is not really anything new. Way back as far as I can remember, say 3-4 minutes ago, he was in the middle of the mix.
Yes.
Tell our listeners a little bit
Absolutely.
about the history of Vladimir Putin and the Ukraine.
Well, from the time Putin became the leader of Russia in 2000, it has been his desire and his wish from the very beginning. He's said it outright to reestablish the Soviet Empire, and a big piece of that is the Ukraine. Really, the opposition to Russia and to the medals between Russia and the Ukraine started and grew to a height in 2004.
Nick, I have heard people very recently make the assertion that the people of the Ukraine want to embrace Russia, but that's not the impression I get from you.
Well, there's really a division in the Ukraine between East and West. East being stronger towards Russia and Ukraine being stronger towards the traditional Ukraine. But the nation and the borders of Ukraine are solid. And even though there is a leaning in the East towards Russia, they speak primarily Russian in the East and Ukrainian in the West, which are very similar. The Ukraine is a very proud nation, is a very proud country, and is a very individual country from Russia or any of those other places.
They're independent-minded.
Yeah, absolutely. And that really is what led in 2005 to the election of President Viktor Yushchenko. Yushchenko had there was an assassination attempt on him during the election, presumably by Putin and his ex-KGB friends. After he was elected, he was a very strong opponent of Russia coming into the Ukraine and stirring things up. Shortly after his election, about a year later, he mysteriously ingested a large dose of radioactive material.
He probably did that on purpose.
It was some bad ham or something.
Some really bad chicken or something.
And he became very sick. He was a very good-looking guy, and it completely disfigured his face. And really, for the next 5 years of his presidency, he was not able to do what he needed to do. Just physically, he wasn't able to. And then in 2010, Putin got his man in, which was Viktor Yanukovych. And Yanukovych was the man who was just deposed in the Ukraine.
And talk just for a brief time about that transition. What caused his removal from office? Was it the Ukrainian dissatisfaction
Yes.
with the Putin ties?
Absolutely. It was. There were a lot of things that were tied in there. The economy of the Ukraine has been stagnant for years. They're still viewed by the IMF as a second world country, as a developing nation, and they can't seem to get out of that. And the biggest reason they can't get out of that is because they're under Putin's boot. Putin does not want the Ukraine to advance. He does not want the Ukraine to be independent. He wants them to be controlled by Russia. He wants them to need Russia. And
so he's saying we can either do this the easy way with my man, or we can
Right.
do it the hard way, and we'll
Yeah.
send in the troops.
That's exactly right, and that's what he's done. He said from the minute Yanukovych was taken out of office, he said, I'll no longer respect or recognize the new Ukrainian government. And of course, a few days later, he invaded the Crimea, surrounded all of the Ukrainian military bases, and has begun to push his way into southern Ukraine.
Well, but Nick, he's just, quote, protecting Russians.
Oh yeah,
Isn't
of
that
course.
his assertion?
Yes, that absolutely is his assertion, and there is a Russian port in the Crimea on the Black Sea with a couple hundred Russian citizens, and so he sent in 10,000 troops and a flotilla of battleships into Crimea to protect those people.
Well, it's once again, it's not a real positive report from the Ukraine, and what it demonstrates is the turmoil in the world, and frankly, the stage is set for some incredible world conflict.
Absolutely.
So it's a good time to pray for our world.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching.